Welcome to my channel, and to my very first video on this channel. My name is Doku, and this is 10 Forgotten Cartoon Shows from Cartoon Network. My top 10 videos will be a little bit different than most. My list won't be ordered in any way in particular except for the number one pick. My reasoning is mostly because these top 10 lists are always subjective, so why bother ordering them? Anyways, for this video, my goal is to make everyone go, I don't remember this show at all, or I completely forgot that show existed. At least once. I watched a lot of top 10 lists of forgotten shows, and I've always ended up remembering all of them or most of them. So I wanted to make a list of my own. So I dug deep down to find shows I don't remember and shows I think most people don't remember as well. If you guys like my list, please subscribe for more and let me know if I was able to bring up a show you don't remember or if you knew all the shows on my list. With the intro out of the way, let's get right into it. I'm sure most people remember Secret Squirrel since it was an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon that got rebooted with an updated art style and story. But not everyone remembers Two Stupid Dogs. This show is actually one of my favorite shows growing up, and it was about, well, two stupid dogs. The dogs didn't have names, so we'll call them Small Dog and Big Dog. Every episode went by this formula. The dogs run into a simple conflict, but they're so stupid that their solutions to the problems are unnecessarily complex. For example, there was an episode where they needed a quarter for a payphone. What ends up happening is that the dogs earn several thousands of dollars, but since they just want a quarter and not all the cash, they end up trading it all in for a single quarter. One of the run-on gags for the show is that Small Dog is terrified of cats, so when one appears, the small dog faints and the big dog has to scare off the cat with a single bark. I personally think it's a pretty funny show, and it helps the show that they split up the segments with Secret Squirrel episodes, which are always fun. I know what you're thinking. Everyone knows Johnny Quest. But I'm talking about the real adventures of Johnny Quest. This was the Johnny Quest I grew up with, so when I saw the original, I pretty much hated the original. This version of the series was much darker and focused heavily on realism. All the characters aged and had a revamped art style. Everything that was cheesy and silly from the original series was removed so the series could be edgier and darker. It was clear that they were trying to target teens instead of kids. All the adventures and mysteries were done in a way to make it feel like it could happen in the real world. In fact, the creative team researched child psychology to ensure they could depict realistic actions and consequences without feeling nightmares. But sadly, due to poor reviews, the show got new writers for the second season who undermined everything and remade the show to be more like the original series. They added the supernatural and science fiction themes to the show, which is something the original writers wanted to avoid, and even changed some of the characters to look more like their original counterparts. Fans hated it, which was the final nail in the coffin for the show to be cancelled. If you guys are interested, I can make a whole video just about this one show and how it could have been great. Let me know if you're interested.
World race drivers, start your engines.
Ready, set, go! Downshift into adventure with Hot Wheels World Race. It's pedal to the metal action.
This show was nothing like the Hot Wheels Battle Force 5 show that everyone over the age of 6 hated. The show wasn't about monsters or trying to defend the world or anything. The tracks were based off of actual Hot Wheels toy tracks, and the series was all about racing. It was a true Hot Wheels cartoon. Now, I'm kind of cheating since this was a movie, but it was premiered on Cartoon Network as a miniseries of 5 episodes. There really isn't much to say about this show, and once all the episodes were shown, I don't believe they did any reruns or marathons for the show, which is why most people don't really remember it. It did get a sequel though.
He's a super dog. He's a superhero. He came to Earth from outer space.
What can I say about this show other than I just didn't like it? The origin of Crypto has changed a lot, but one thing that stayed constant was that Crypto was Superman's dog from Krypton. In this cartoon, Crypto gets adopted by a boy named Kevin and learns that Crypto has the same superpowers as Superman. Superman even makes a cameo in the first episode to give his blessing to Kevin to take care of his dog. This show was all about superheroes, but with a focus on their pets. The show was very kid friendly, but that was sort of a negative thing because it made the show boring. Once the gimmick that it's about pets that belong to popular superheroes and supervillains wore off, the show started to die out with only 2 seasons and lasting only a year. I mean, it technically had a series finale, but the series finale was a holiday special about Hanukkah and Christmas. I wouldn't exactly call that a series finale since nothing really big happens, and doesn't really end the show with answers being solved. Pet Alien. Anybody remember this show? If the answer is no, then you'll be surprised to hear that this show has 52 episodes between 2 seasons and was nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award. Even when I tried to do some digging on this show, no one really seems to know much about the show except for the main plot, which is about a 12-year-old boy named Tommy Cadle and the 5 aliens that live in his lighthouse. For the aliens, we have Dinko, who is a stereotypical fish out of water character, always misunderstanding human words and saying, which creates chaos. Grumpers, who is this really big, hungry, and gentle giant. Swanky, the alien genius. Flip, who is just a hyperactive alien. And lastly, Scruffy, the dog-like alien. The animation for the show isn't that bad for its time, but the show itself is mediocre and easily forgettable. It's kind of a mystery about how a show that can have 52 episodes, but any information on it is very limited. Not much else to say about it. I do have some vague memories of watching it, but I really can't think of any memorable episodes.
Barking, scratching, frisbee catching, presidential pets.
That's us.
Change into the canines who drive souped-up cars and jets.
Coming through!
Tilka sniffing, toilet sipping, soaring through the sky.
I like it.
Licking, drooling, quick refueling, who says dogs can't fly?
Not me.
Speeding, crashing, fearless action.
This show was originally on WB Kids, but moved to Cartoon Network after a year with only 13 episodes. And it actually lasted for about 2 years on Cartoon Network, despite it not getting any new episodes. The show was a Monster of the Week type of cartoon with a team of 5 super-powered crime-fighting anthropomorphic dogs. The Road Rovers were just ordinary dogs that were transformed in order to fight crime. The show failed probably because it didn't know what to do with its characters. Should the show be a comedy with visual gags about these anamorphic dogs being silly because they have a body of a human but act like dogs? Or should it take the crime fighting serious and go for an action vibe? The show tried to do both comedy and action but failed because the tension would be undermined by the comedy or the comedy would fall flat during the action scenes. This is one show I think it's okay to be forgotten because can you imagine what the internet would do if this show came back?
According to legend, only 4 heroes empowered with exceptional abilities can save Gorm.
No way! That's mine!
It's mine now.
That's what you think!
Gormini was a cartoon/toy/card game type of franchise, much like Bakugan. The idea behind the cartoon was to sell toys while also getting people to play the card game. And just like Bakugan, it worked, but it was only short-lived. The cartoon was very much like Chaotic, where the main cast were kids. They would travel to the world of Gormiti and transform into creatures from the Gormiti world. The show was a massive hit and spawned 2 more seasons and a new CGI series that is scheduled to air this year. So you might be wondering, how is it possible we're getting a new series, but you most likely never heard of it? Well, the show wasn't a hit in America, and I don't even think Cartoon Network even showed all the episodes from season 1. The show is only airing in some countries because, again, it was a huge hit, just not in the States or Canada. I vaguely remember this cartoon, but I don't remember it being on Cartoon Network for a long time. Apparently, the show came back in 2011 for a second season, but I have no memory of it. The show itself wasn't that bad, but it's nothing special.
On the island, pretty island, where nobody goes.
There's a good chance you remember this show since it's now on Cartoon Network Demand, but before that, probably not. This is a show I remember from the early days of Cartoon Network. I don't think the show would ever get greenlit in today's time because of how it portrays the residents of the island where the show takes place. They look like a mixture of various different types of tribes, which might be seen as offensive when you consider the fact that everyone's British. That's because the residents of the islands are descendants from a British ship that got shipwrecked on the island. The show focuses on Mike, who is a foreign exchange student, Lou, who claims to be a princess with a snotty personality, and Og, who is a genius and loves science. The show is kind of a reversed fish out of water type of deal, where Mike tries to introduce things from her culture, like baseball and roller skating, to the people on the island. Or Lou and Og will explain their culture to Mike and be about her experiencing their culture. The show actually has a positive message about blending cultures together and sharing cultures because it's fun, which is something I think more people need to get behind on. I wanted to put this at number 1, but what I found for the number 1 spot is too good to pass up. So number 2 is Sitting Ducks. The show came out in 2001 and was just an odd and out of place show to appear on the channel. The CG was bad and very bland, and the premise is even weirder. The show takes place in Ducktown, where everyone's a duck, with a neighboring town called Swampwood, where everyone's an alligator. The main characters are Bill, who is a duck, and his best friend Aldo, who's an alligator. The show is obviously made for kids, but what's weird is that the show likes to emphasize the fact that the alligators do eat the ducks from Ducktown. Most cartoons would just suggest that the alligators eat the ducks, but never outright say they do, which makes this show a bit morbid for young children. There is even an episode where during the winter, the alligators don't eat the residents of Ducktown because they donate their feathers for coats so the alligators can stay warm. This might not be a cartoon, but it does deserve the number 1 spot regardless. Woolen Warrior is an American adaptation of the Taiwanese show called Pili. Well, at least that's how I think you pronounce it. The show was a huge failure, even though Pili was a hugely successful show, going far as even being the most popular show in Taiwan and is still running to this day. So what happened? The show suffered the same fate as animes that get an American adaptation movie. The writers didn't understand the source material or didn't care about the source material and removed almost everything that made the show good in order to adapt it for American audiences. The original show took itself serious despite using puppets and was a heavy drama action-driven show. But the American version took itself less serious and made itself into a comedy. Toonami literally only showed 2 episodes before it got canceled from complaints and low ratings. And that's it. This is my list of 10 cartoon shows that were forgotten from Cartoon Network. Was I successful in showing you a cartoon show you once forgot about or didn't even know existed? What did you think about my list? Let me know in the comment section below, and hope you will subscribe for more.